Yes, I'll come up. I'm in a meeting. I'll call you back when I'm done. Okay.
Okay, hang on a sec here. All right, we're good to go. The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. The one who comes to learn is especially always welcome. Positive energy and creation energy to all of you out there in the organic African paradigm. I would like to welcome you to not a lecture, but a discussion between myself and our brother Rosario Wilson from the Let's Build Wealth Together community and family. Today, we will be talking about wealth and African prosperity, etc. So, Brother Rosario, please introduce yourself to our audience. Go ahead.
The one who come in peace is always welcome. Peace, unity, wealth creation, and positive energy to all the kings and queens, brothers and sisters. So my name is Rosario Wilson, and I am the CEO of Zor Gluten Free Limited. We specialize in the processing of cassava, gluten-free products, gluten-free cassava bread, gluten-free cassava wraps, gluten-free cassava granola. The cassava granola is the first and only granola that's from cassava created by me, by Zor Gluten Free Limited. And we also do meal prep for athletes and for individuals that want to change in the health and also to reduce or to gain weight. We specialize in meal prep as well.
Okay. How long have you been doing this, by the way?
Well, cassava, I was raised in the processing of cassava by my parents. So I have over 40 odd years, over 40 years, I would say, in the knowledge of processing of cassava.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So I am well versed in the in farming and in processing of cassava.
Okay. You mind telling us where you're from? Just because you say you're well versed in cassava, so we want to know what art of cassava planting you've gained. So let us know which one.
Okay, I am from the island of St. Lucia, in the Caribbean. I am St. Lucian, but I am African descendants. Yeah. So the art of cassava was passed down by our ancestors, the processing of cassava from the Caribbean and from the African ancestry. So we use both types of cassava. There's two types of cassava, the bitter type and the sweet type. The bitter type is have a higher concentration of cyanide, and the sweet one is have a lower concentration of cyanide. So the bitter type can only be consumed through a processed for a process to extract the cyanide from the cassava. However, the sweet one could use is edible by cooking or by processing.
Okay, cyanide, that sounds kind of unsafe, but you know, I mean, do people know about this on the continent as well? Because I know we consume a lot of cassava in our diet. Is
I
this
would, yes, I would want to think that they know about it, because they would know which one to boil and which one not to boil. Because if you boil and eat the wrong type of cassava, for instance, the bitter one, it will kill you. Because what happened, the cyanide will go into the tuber itself. Because it's the water that has the cyanide. So once you boil it, it will saturate it into the tuber itself. So what we do to get rid of the cyanide from the cassava, we evaporated the cassava. Through evaporation, the cyanide exited. However, because it has a cyanide, it has traces of B17. And because it has traces of B17, it's an anti-cancer root vegetable. And that is why in the areas in Africa where people use a lot of cassava, they doesn't suffer with cancer or diabetes. Because cassava is also low on the glycemic index, and it does not stay into the body. And it is because it works through the bloodstreams. It releases slow energy into the body, and therefore it passes through. It does the starch does not stay in the body, and that is why it's safe for diabetic, or it prevents diabetic or diabetes, or also cancer, because of its traces of B17.
Okay. I grew up eating cassava. So at Liberia, one of the staple food in Liberia is cassava. It's typically for breakfast, boiled. And I don't know about fried, but roasted cassava, yes, we have that. We have boiled. We have gari. We have all different types of cassava things, right? They make fufu with it, and different types of stuff with it. So I don't know. We eat the leaves, cassava leaves. We eat it as well. So I don't know if they're removing the poison or not. I don't know which one is sweet, which one is bitter. I really, it tastes delicious to me. So I'm kind of ignorant when it comes to, but I'm sure the people learn this knowledge, because if you have gained this knowledge from ancestry knowledge, that means this knowledge has also been passed down from a long generation. So yes. we can be grateful for the importance of passing down ancestral knowledge to generations, because it saves your life.
Of course.
It keeps you from from doing something stupid. Ancestry knowledge keeps you from being foolish in the world, right?
Yes,
you agree, right?
Because they give us the understanding, because they learned from it. So therefore, they teach us the right way to process or manufacture, or even farming. So they teach us all the right way to process vegetables, root vegetables.
Okay, yeah, and it is really we've given up that traditional African knowledge a little bit. When I talk about knowledge, I'm talking about the essentials of food, the essentials of architect, the essentials of system building, the essential of engineering, biology, chemistry, and all those stuff.
And medicine, right? As well.
Medicine. We've given up those kind of value in favor of the Western world, because the Western world focuses on convenience. The methodology of the Western world is convenience and mass production. Two key ingredient in the Western formula is methodology, simplicity, facilitation, and distribution of mass reproduction or mass distribution. So this has been where the West has been able to thrive. The West has been able to be successful, right? And out of this success, the Western world has generated something called wealth, which brings us to our topic today, right? Yes. What is the meaning of wealth to you? Because since we're going to be talking about wealth today, so let's go straight into it. What is the meaning of wealth to you, my brother?
Okay, the meaning of wealth to me, not the European meaning, but the meaning of wealth to me is wealth has the spiritual wealth. There is spiritual wealth, educational wealth, and financial wealth. Yes? So let's build 12. So let's build 12 focus to educate all aspects of wealth and to create transgenerational knowledge. That is the meaning of wealth to me.
Okay, so all aspects of wealth, transgenerational wealth.
Yes.
Okay.
Spiritual wealth, educational
wealth,
and financial wealth.
And financial wealth. So there's wealth is not just a singular asset accumulation, rather it's spiritual wealth as well.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good. And a wealth should be transgenerational. Now, we need to go into this word transgenerational, because I think one of the thing that we do on the organic African paradigm is we go into the dictionary often, right? And it's not really a bad thing, but it's really necessary for us to be able to convey our message to the audience. You see what I mean? So what is the meaning of transgenerational? Transgenerational is across multiple generation.
Yeah,
that's what it says, across multiple generation. So our brother is talking about expanding wealth across multiple generation. Now, not just one type of wealth, spiritual wealth, and the staple definition of wealth, which is the asset and valuable and material possession and resource, etc. Correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So
because the Europeans consider wealth to be the abundance of assets or of money. That's what they consider to be wealth.
Okay. Abundance of, I don't think it's just money with Europeans though.
Europeans have assets as well. Assets or
Europeans have a good definition of wealth, because in their definition is usually about acquiring land, acquisition of land.
Yeah, assets. And,
and we need to clarify assets to the viewers, right?
Okay,
assets is I think they call it liquidity, or having some sort of weight behind it, right? Longevity behind it. So like land is an asset. Gold is an asset.
Yes, gold is an asset. Manufacturing is an asset.
Manufacturing is an asset. Owning a house is an asset.
Yes.
Owning a business is an asset, right? This is where these are the things that span across generation, right? Mm-hmm. So because these things are assets, you can hand them down to your children. But not just hand them down to your children, you can give your children skills on how to make it better, make improvements on those things. And you can give your children ability to magnify it and grow it, right? Expand it, right? So this is kind of their strategy of the Europeans. Now, if you say that, what's wrong with the wealth condition in Africa? Why do you choose the path of wealth? Out of all the different paths out there, why did you decide that wealth was the path?
Wow, that is a very good question, my brother. Well, as African, wealth is often not distributed equally, especially in the African race. When we look at those that has wealth in that are of our people, that those wealth doesn't distributed equally, does not passed on. Actually, sometimes those individuals even marry outside their own race as well. So that wealth end up going outside our race. So I chose that path because when we look at, I live in the diaspora, so therefore I have to look at wealth in the diaspora before the continent itself as well.
Okay.
We are at the bottom when it comes to, in the different races, when it comes to wealth, we are at the bottom. And therefore, I take it upon myself to create the Let's Build Wealth Together to give us that ability of to be able to gain wealth and to pass wealth on. When we look at the continent itself, the continent is rich in wealth because the continent has all the resources in the world, and it provides the world as well. But yet still our people does not have those assets. Those assets goes outside the continent. So with Let's Build Wealth Together, it is our mission to be to educate our people and to allow them to gain monetary wealth, to convert that money into assets. And that's where wealth begins to that's how wealth will be retained in our generation and generation to come.
Okay.
So that is why I took it. Yeah.
So you chose wealth as a medium to help your people to make a contribution to your people.
Yes, and to the continent itself, as to the continent of Africa.
Okay. All right. That's a path, you know, that's a actually legitimate reason to choose wealth, you know, building for others and not so much. Sometimes people get carried away with building wealth for them for personal gain, and then you know, they follow that path and they accumulate that wealth, and that wealth becomes theirs. So what does wealth mean to you, like personally? Because I know why you chose wealth, right? And I know why you want others to have wealth. But what does wealth mean to you personally, absent the desire to help others? But what does wealth mean to you personally? Like if you were going to just say, based on your views, your personal self, what does wealth give you? What does wealth do for you? I mean, what does it mean?
Okay, wealth to me, is to be able to contribute to my people. That is what wealth means to me, to be able to give my people the knowledge, the right knowledge of how to acquire wealth, along building wealth for myself, so that and to educate my children about wealth, and to be able to pass on that wealth from generation to generation. But the most important is the educational wealth. That's the most important.
So wealth has meanings to you. It has the educational value, it has the family value, and it has the generational value as well. So that's why you chose this path. So
yes, financial value.
You guys can see out there, he chose the path because of solid reasons. You know, where I'm asking the questions because we want to really find out why the brother chose wealth. We can't have someone telling us about wealth unless we have a solid foundation of that person telling us, you know, who they are. So these questions are meant to reveal who he is as a person and how he views wealth. And so far, everything our brother has said concerning wealth has to do with the collective. It has to do with the family. It has to do with generation. He hasn't mentioned anything about a luxury car. He hasn't mentioned anything about mansions and islands and a private jet. He didn't mention nothing like that. What he said was community, spirituality, and all those things. Those were the key phrases he mentioned about wealth. So I'm going to give you another question. Okay, so is wealth a crisis Africa face? I mean, you did say the African continent has an abundance of wealth. So why would this be a crisis if there's an abundance of wealth?
Okay, yes, brother, there is a crisis. And let me explain why there is a crisis. Although the continent has all the resources, those resources is not manufactured, it's not mined by us, it's not manufactured by us, and it doesn't stay on the continent. That is one. Also, we have the foreigners that comes into the continent, that buys the land, that builds businesses, and our people contribute to those businesses. So there is a crisis. We need to learn to build for ourselves, mind, manufacture, distribute, wholesale, retail. We need to be able to do those things. So there is a crisis.
Okay, so I heard the land is being given to foreign investors or foreigners,
yes,
and they come in. And so the mining contracts is being given to foreigners, correct?
Correct, yes.
And then I heard that the manufacturing is being done outside of the continent. Is that what I heard?
Yes, when you look at, some of the manufacturing of goods, is done by foreigners. When we look at the material for phone or for computer,
Okay.
yes. Although we contain that resources, our people does not manufacture those goods.
Okay.
No.
So foreigners coming to Africa, let's say Turkic, Chinese, whoever, right? Coming to Africa to buy the land or to lease the land for maybe 200 years, right? And they're there to extract the minerals within the land, right? And to use that land. Why would this be a problem as opposed to if the foreigners paid for the money for the land fair and square? If they come to the government and they give the government cash, green paper for the land so they could extract the minerals, why is this a problem? Why is this an issue the African people should worry about if the foreigners pay fair and square for the land?
Okay, when they take our resources in the continent and they give us green paper, say for today or tomorrow there is a war or there is inflation, what happened to that dollar?
It
That
goes
dollar
down.
depreciates. Yeah,
Depreciates.
Yeah. So therefore, that paper becomes non-valuable. Where our resource, where our asset stays valuable or increase in value. So so you understand why, and then that wealth, that asset does not move from another generation. It is dead to that generation. So therefore, the next generation needs to start over.
Okay. So yes? Paper money, when they pay paper money for the land, paper money has the ability to become non-valuable.
Yes, has the ability to become non-valuable, yeah.
So when circumstance, anything can fluctuate and the paper money can reduce in value. However, because minerals or natural resource are actual resource that human beings need for their daily lives, those things can never become non-valuable, correct?
Correct, yes.
So, and then you can't transfer money to a transgeneration because the value might be less in the future, or the value might be non-valuable in the future, correct?
Yes, so, or been spent as well.
Okay, or being spent.
Spent as well, yes.
What you can transfer gold to your future generation, and yes, gold will still be valuable.
Still be valuable.
You can transfer land, it will still be valuable. You can transfer a cocoa plantation or a yam plantation to your children, it'll still be valuable, right? Yes. So like you inherited cassava skills, and that cassava skills turned out to benefit you in the future. So that's actually something that can be valuable for generations, right?
Yes.
So transferring skills to human beings on how to maintain those things are also valuable, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so that's kind of settles the why we shouldn't, why it's a bad negotiation strategy. What would we call this? Is this a bad judgment call, or is this a poor understanding of finance or wealth, or is this what exactly can we call this? That our side of the fence doesn't realize that wealth in its actual land, its actual asset, and the minerals within those don't change throughout the ages, right? But what changes is the green paper. So is it whose fault is it that we don't understand the value of these two things? Like we can differentiate the value. Whose fault is it?
Okay, I wouldn't say that we do not understand the value of it.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that, but I would say there is interference.
Okay.
And because of those interference, those decisions are made or are forced to be made.
Okay. So interference and the decisions are forced to be made based on interference, okay? And decisions are forced to be made. But, we have to be fair, okay? We have to be fair. We don't want to just blame and say other people are doing it, because technically we have a choice. We can say no, we can refuse. Every human being has a choice. Every human being has the ability to say, no, we don't want to. I mean, if you have the brain capacity or the brain ability or a formula or a foundation that you can use to do something, it's not likely you're going to adopt someone else's foundation and do something with it, correct? We can't say
Correct,
that.
correct, yes, correct. But we have that colonization trauma. Don't forget that
Okay.
as well. And
So,
then
okay.
we have that understanding of self wealth rather than collective wealth. And
Okay.
because we have that Western or European or colonizers mindset or understanding of wealth, individual wealth. And I think some of our leaders focus on individual wealth rather than collective wealth and for the people.
Okay. So the wealth crisis Africans face is a wealth crisis that is one, we are taking money for valuable resources that don't depreciate, but we are taking money because now there must be some reason we are taking money. There must be some reason. Now you say we can attribute this to, I believe we can say this is a lack of understanding or of the value of those resources, or the lack of confidence in our ability to produce those resources. I will have to kind of add that as part of that, because the reason we will say this is, you see, in this, we got to be very, very practical when we talk about things, right? One thing I'll say is, Europeans don't really stop us from doing anything in this world. They manipulate us, right? They give us money, and then we take the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they can threaten us, right? But their threat is only good because they have the ability to work together, right? They're only able to carry out their threats and their ability to exterminate a leader because they have the ability to work together. Can we agree that's fair?
Yes, 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 and it has happened. Yes, we have.
So they have.
Yeah, it has happened,
So
and it's continued to happen.
So what they have is the ability to work together, not as individuals, and they're able to execute anything that they wish to execute when they work together, correct?
Correct, yes.